Good morning. Welcome to Saturday Morning Coffee. My name is Lance Mckinnon, and I'm here with my co-host, Tiffany Linderman. Hi, Tiffany.
Hey, Lance, how are you doing?
Doing great. Happy Saturday morning.
You too. Thank you. And who is this? We have a special guest today.
Yeah, well, another special guest today.
Wow.
Tiffany, who may we have with us this Saturday morning?
Well, Steve Lefko, and I don't think I need to give this man an introduction, but he has an amazing story. And I think you have some sort of special creations that you do, but I'll let you tell that story later. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. Thanks, Tiffany. Thanks, Lance. I appreciate the chance to jump in and I don't know, share good stuff. I guess we'll see what happens.
No
chilly
pressure.
morning here. It's a chilly morning here in Chicago. What's it like in Lidditz?
Cold.
Cold.
It is cold.
It's still 40 degrees here.
Yeah, it's cold. It was funny. We were talking with Bruce Killian the other day, last Saturday, and he was like, "Yeah, it's a cold 72 degrees." And we're like, "No, literally, we were sitting with sweatshirts on. I had to turn my heat on.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I was going to have to go out and shovel in May, but being from upstate New York originally, things like that happen. So we're good to go. But I'm glad you're able to join us. Steve and I go way back over many decades. Again, I don't want to steal his thunder, but Steve, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you, what you're doing, how you're making an impact on the world.
Yeah, gosh, the world. I'm not sure if I'm ready to take on the world quite yet, but maybe we'll see. We're trying. We're heading that direction. Yeah. So Lance. I mean, Tiffany. Lance maybe told you, but we go way back. We grew up in the same hometown, tiny little town in central New York, which was just a great experience. We were just talking about some good memories. So we could talk about dollhouses. How dollhouses. So I ended up. I went to college. I ended up going to graduate school. I ended up, I'm an entomologist is my training. That's actually the study of insects. And I worked with seed companies breeding plants to be resistant to insects. My wife and I, Kim is also from Penn Yan. So we moved around a lot. We had some kind of location coups. She had an opportunity and I was flexible. And then I had an opportunity and she was flexible. When we got married, I think I was telling you that I really just wanted to have a family, and our family came. So I guess we moved around a bunch, ended up in Pennsylvania, then moved to Atlanta for a couple of years. I could kind of see the writing on the wall. When Kim went back to work right after having our girls, we moved. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. We moved, she went back to work. We could see that we needed to make a change for our family, essentially, right? So one of us was gonna have to stay home, or we wanted one of us to stay home, and it ended up being me, which, I say is the hardest, best job I've ever had. So, I went, so we lived in Atlanta. The wheels were starting to chatter. We had to make this change. So, we said goodbye to our nanny, who was fantastic. We sold our house, we both quit our jobs, and we moved here, which was, crazy, because I went from, flying around for work and important meetings and this and that. So I think I could vacuum our entire apartment from one outlet with, my 18-month-old in one hand and my 4-year-old on my leg or whatever. So it was a crazy change. I mean, the first thing I did is I went camping for 10 days, like with the girls. Kim had to go away for work. So we just went to Wisconsin and just out to the woods, because that was where I felt most comfortable. But, family is the theme that led to the dollhouse stuff. So I always wanted a family. I mentioned, or maybe I didn't mention, but our girls came from in vitro. So, I brought a problem to the equation, which really shook me for a while until, we were finally able to overcome that. So I had that threat of almost not having a family. And, we started to look into adoption, and we're like, no, we're going to have a family. So I've always had this passion for family. And the more, I'm a scientist, I'm kind of dorky, so I still like to read about sociology and psychology and the changes in the world. And so much of it links back to your childhood and your family. It's really true. Mm-hmm. So when I realized that I was going to have these these 2 little girls, and I was going to have maybe some extra time on my hand, I started to really think about what can I do with my extra time to pour into our community. We live essentially, if you take the subway straight west out of Chicago, we're at the very end of the subway. So, if I step out in the street down here, I can see the Sears Tower. But then there's also, suburbs for miles and miles beyond. There's a lot of people around. There's a lot of opportunity to help people.
Can I just say that you're probably the coolest dad? So it sounds like you have two girls, right?
Yeah.
So you're the coolest dad, being a little girl and being able to have dollhouses. And my dad makes dollhouses.
Well, the first one I made actually was when I resigned from my corporate job, and it was 2 weeks before Christmas. And I was so full of anxiety, so full of fear of the unknown and what is it like. And Kim, my wife, is, she's a very successful professional, and she's just done an awesome job. But it's big risks for both of us. It's very uncomfortable for both of us. So in that 2 weeks, I made my first dollhouse, and I'd never made a dollhouse before, and I'll never make one like that again. But anyway,
was it really bad?
Oh, it was horrible. I mean, it turned out great, but I got to tell you, like, it started off. I bought like these tongue depressors that were like dyed a color already. Yeah. And I didn't realize I couldn't just paint over them. Oh, it was a mess, but I got it done. I think about 4 o'clock in the morning.
So you didn't learn anything in Mr. Andrews's woodshop class. Is that what you're saying? Did you pay attention to Mr. Andrews's woodshop class?
Mr. Andrews, yeah. So we had this idea. We go back to see family in New York quite a bit. So we spent a lot of car time together, and we've been talking about this idea of dollhouses. Really kind of like a Tom's model, like buy one, give one. How are we going to earn a little bit of money so that we can do more giving, really? So it's not so much a business for family income. It really started off as just kind of a passion project. And we talked about it for a couple of years, actually. And then my wife is at work. She is traveling for work, came back from a meeting. It was around the holidays, and there were 3 little cards left on the giving tree at work, where you take one off and you execute on whatever the plan is. And so after work, she comes home and she puts this down, and it was this girl, Chantel, and all she wanted was a dollhouse, right?
Oh,
that's precious.
Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy. So she's like, there you go. Do you need a sign? You got to do something with that. So we made a dollhouse that year, and I'm like, I could probably start crying. So we made that dollhouse. We made one dollhouse that year, and then we gave it to Chantel. I've never met this girl, but she's important. The next year, I think we made 3, and then we got connected with some local agencies, and we made like 7, and then we made 15 the next year, and we made 25. And this is all out of like below me, the garage,
Yeah.
And then one year we made 50.
My goodness. Can I just say, growing up, my parents like absolutely loved dollhouses. And my grandfather, he had a dollhouse. Unfortunately, before he passed away, he didn't finish this dollhouse that was in his house, but my parents have it. But dollhouses, they're so intricate and take so much time. I've helped to build dollhouses as a kid. Yeah. So I don't even know how you have the time to do it. You have to figure out some sort of efficiency with it.
Yeah, we were not efficient in the basement. I mean, a lot of it was a lot of it was trimming things to fit, and we weren't kind of organized. But what we were doing is we were getting a lot of feedback from these agencies. So it's mostly child welfare agencies. Kids, like one of our favorites, Hefzibah Home, they serve kids down to wards of the state down to 3 years old, right? It's there's a lot of need around where like there is everywhere. And so we started to, they let us be a little bit part of the process. So, I mean, even I remember walking out of there one holiday, one Christmas Eve, actually, with my oldest daughter, Alex, and we had dropped off a whole bunch of dollhouses, and they gave us a tour, and we were walking out, and Alex goes, she's like, Dad, I've got goosebumps. Fuck.
Yeah.
So we couldn't stop. So it's not so much about the dollhouses, but like I said, I'm a scientist, so I'm really into kind of early childhood development is like not a second career, but I'm just the study of it and how does it work. And so what's magical about dollhouses really is the open-ended play, right? So, I mean, we donate dollhouses to, all over the place, and like therapists will call and talk about how they use them. So for example, it might be uniting 2 adopted children, right? Where they don't have to sit and try to talk about things, and who are you, whatever. They just start playing, and the play brings them together. Or other therapists use them to actually do clinical work where, they can have conversations and ask questions, and the kids can use their play to express themselves where they don't have the words necessarily, right? So there's so many amazing things that can come out of this open-ended play. So I kind of think of the dollhouse as it's just a vehicle, right? It's just a vehicle to reach these kids. So we made the 50 dollhouses, and we're like, we've got to do this. It just feels so good. The mess, the significance that's coming back to us was so hot. So we ended up finding a spot to kind of set up for the workshop, and put some equipment in there and set up a website. And the model was buy one get one. And we only have a couple models, but I was just making tons of dollhouses, and we were just giving away. I thought the more you give away, the more it's going to come back. What I mean?
Absolutely.
And so,
and I was just gonna, sorry not to interject there, but this past year, you think of kids at home not being able to go outside. You think of just even whether it's for play purposes or those purposes of stress and anxiety for the kids and their families. I can only imagine this last year how that's been with your passion project you've been working on. Have you seen an impact throughout that, and have you been able to still support the kids through all of it during COVID?
Well, what's interesting, I mean, it's tricky. So we use the workshop. I'll just cut to the chase. So people ask me about success, like business success versus significance. And so I'd say, we failed miserably on business success. There's this, we're not really able to sell enough dollhouses. Dollhouses they're not in, people are not buying dollhouses. And we did, we spent some money, we hired a digital marketing agency. We tried to do some research because we're all online. And we basically learned that we're not going to win. We just don't have the resources to compete against some of the bigger players who sell dollhouses. Our dollhouses, they come, fully assembled, and they're bio-based paints, and it's all, but everyone else has their arms around that. So our model's actually changing, and we're going to get more out of the business of selling the dollhouses, but we continue to give the dollhouses. One of the challenges with COVID is really just cleanliness and concern. So another thing we do is we'll invite groups into the workshop to do builds, whether it's wooden toys for agencies. I mean, the firemen come over and hang out, and someone donates coffee and donuts, and we'll make a couple hundred toys and give them to the the YMCA who's supporting some kids, stuff like that. We use the workshop for all kinds of different essentially social impact toy type activities. So we had some Girl Scouts in, and they were making dollhouses, but for example, they weren't able to give them to the hospital where we normally give because of the the risk, and so it's completely understandable. I'll tell you a great story. So there's something with a doll. There isn't something, we know what it is with open-ended play, but there's also something with doing things with your hands, and maybe just like a comfortable environment. And the workshop's brick, and it's open rafter ceilings. So we try to partner with all these agencies, and one of them we got connected with is an agency that does counseling for police officers. And so at the holidays, you want to. I'm biased. I think every mom or dad wants to build a dollhouse for their kid, right? And it's not just girls. There's plenty. There's boy play too. So we sell a ticket to come have a catered dinner, maybe have a glass of wine, and build a dollhouse together. And so we've got these big tables, and have the music on, and it's a lot of fun. And we set aside some extra seats for law enforcement, and through this agency. So these people showed up, and some people came by themselves, and some people brought their spouse, and it was an amazing mix of people. I'm talking about people who there's so much diversity in the room. I mean, amazing diversity. But when the music's on, when you're building a dollhouse, when you're building dollhouses for kids, it's like everyone's been friends forever, and everyone skips over everything. It's just this thing working with your hands, right? So then towards the end of the 2-hour session, there's young moms, there's all kinds of people there. I'm like, all right, well, there's a couple people we just need to mention here. And I'm like, well, raise your hand if you're embedded with the drug force, the organization in Cicero that embeds policemen in gangs essentially. And this guy raises his hand. Well, you should have seen a young mom across the table. She's like, it was like, what? Right. So, I mean, by the end, we're all crying, right? Because these people were doing these amazing jobs, right? Trying to help people, but yet we just skipped over all that, and we were just making dollhouses. So yeah, we use the workshop. We're doing less and less buying and selling dollhouses. We're still trying to give dollhouses away. It's a little tricky, like I said, but we're trying to do more things. Just trying to find ways to plug into our community.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, I love the fact that it sounds like you were really bringing your community together, and also the diversity piece, allowing us to be able to share what makes us amazing or unique from one person to our neighbor. And as you talked about earlier, building the dollhouses, I don't know how you do it in 2 hours.
All the pieces are cut.
Shocking to me.
It goes together, yeah.
So as you said, you had transitioned jobs, and you were home, and you started just you also wanted to do something with your hands. It helped you to kind of get out of that mental space that you were maybe in, to be able to do something that was productive, right? How now are you building these? Do you build your own materials essentially to make these houses, or do you go and you buy like the pre-made stuff that they use for dollhouses?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we buy wholesale like sheet material, and essentially I kind of taught myself how to use AutoCAD. We found a great freelance designer to help us take kind of like sketches and reduce them down to actual designs. My youngest daughter Isabel is one of the best prototypers, so we'll get a design from Kevin, and I'll cut all the parts, and we'll have Isabel try to put it together. And there's an order to things, and she'll say, well, when you get to this step here, we got to make some changes. So we volley the design back and forth a few times, and then once we have the design, it's a laser cutter, and so if it takes a sheet of wood, and if it's the right sheet of wood and it's already painted, you put it in, you bring up the right file, and we'll cut all the parts out of that thing. And so we just have bins of parts. And, the girls can put the dollhouses together, and pretty much anybody can put the dollhouse together. It's not that tricky after you have all the parts, and they always fit. That was a lot different than the base or the garage. The garage, most of the pieces never fit. So we spent a lot of time, trimming and cutting and whatever. So, yeah. So we have a cool tool that helps us be more efficient with parts.
Wow. And how old is Isabel? Sorry, Lance.
No, that's truly amazing. But like, I want to go back to like the impact on the children that you had touched on earlier. Because I know a lot of our conversations, you and I growing up in the same area, how important is, and what you've done, what you're doing. I mean, you're obviously making a difference. I know you don't even realize it, you take no credit for it, but you're making an impact on these youths, like absolutely amazing. Like, what have you seen, how these kids are developing? From the impact of the dollhouses.
Yeah, it's great. So, I mean, like I said, the dollhouse is just a vehicle, right? It's a way to have a connection. It's a way to meet somebody. It's a way to show somebody that they can be loved, and that you don't even know who they are, but you just love on them, right? And Lance, you knew where I grew up, middle of nowhere, essentially. We had a little workshop. Past time, I did, I kind of was a hobbyist woodworker, and I guess I'm still kind of letting some of that stuff out. But I'll tell you another great story. So there's an organization called Marillac, St. Vincent. It's in a part of Chicago that generates a lot of the statistics you hear on the news, and they're phenomenal. They have services, from birth to death, essentially. It's a big organization, and they have this one group that serves young moms, 13 to 21, and so we do. I would love it if every single one of those moms had left there with a dollhouse. That would be the ultimate goal. But there's some great people that we got connected to, and something I didn't mention is each dollhouse has a storybook that goes with it, and it's written by a woman here who used to live here in town, which is a whole other story how we got connected. But she's written stories for each one of the dollhouses, and so. At one time, we had brought a load of dollhouses down to Marillac and left them, and they always want us to be there because they say, it's more important for the kids to see that there's people behind the giving. It's not just a gift, which, like you said, I never really want to be. It's not about me. We're doing this for bigger reasons. But we stayed, and so I was, we're kind of with the kids, and they're excited and playing, and there's this one girl, and she's in the dollhouse, and I'm down. With her, and we're talking about what's going on and how this works and so forth. And I said, and there's a storybook with this. And Lorana, who's the author of this book, I said, and the author, she wrote this little thing for you in the beginning. It's a dedication. And it says, it says this book was written for you, right? So if it's first person, like if you're reading it, it says it's actually written for you. And so I didn't pay too much attention, but she wasn't really either. We moved past the book. Well, I was back there 6 months later, and Deanna, the director for the group there, said, hey, did you have a conversation with so-and-so about the book? And I was like, yeah. She's like, she's 9 years old and she doesn't know how to read yet, but you told her there was a book written for her, and she carries it with her all the time.
Wow.
I don't need a paycheck for stuff like this, right? Like, so there's these stories, significant. Like I said, the business success stinks, right? We're still trying to figure it out, but these little things happen, which is, to me, it's a wink from God saying, yeah, you're not there yet, but you see, you're doing some important stuff. So the books, reading literacy is a kind of another passion of mine in youth. So that's an example of some of the impact of the work we're trying to do. And it's a family project. I spend more time than the girls and my wife, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure that what you're doing is absolutely life-changing for these kids, and you don't even know. I think that there's that moment you have with them, but I think the moments you don't even see is that time that they're spending playing with their house, or the fact that there's a book that goes with the houses and also is for them. I like that. So that story does not surprise me at all, but it's absolutely amazing. I'm over here wanting to cry. I cannot imagine when you see the kids picking up their house and giving that to them. I'm sure there's been many tears in those moments.
Yeah, it is amazing. So like, I love the saying, like, be the blessing, right? Like, you're blessed so that you can bless someone else, right? Like, it's a chain. We're all connected, right? It's all about the connections. So that's what I get the most satisfaction out of, is actually, so we have another organization who it's called Youth Crossroads, and they're actually, so this is in a part of, it's actually where the workshop is. It's a part of town around here where it's low. It's I want to say 90. The statistic they use is 95% of the kids are on free or reduced lunch in the high school. Free or reduced lunch is basically a vernacular to describe socioeconomic status. And so this agency is they're the therapists in the high school. So it used to be like you had a guidance counselor, and if you had some issues, they would refer you to somebody. But the issues are so tough here that this organization actually has a therapist right in the school, so they don't miss the kids. It's a brilliant idea. And one of the groups they have, it's basically it's like, it's not safe to be at home, is kind of the way they describe a certain set of kids. And so we're just we're the workshop, we're a fun place. Let's go do a project. And so oftentimes with this group, they have different groups, but oftentimes we'll do a project with them. Like, we just made 100 of these logic puzzles. It's a little tactical thing with your hand. It's kind of like a Rubik's Cube, but it's a little bit simpler, made for a little bit younger kids. But they made so we got them all set up. I got them all set up, and then they spent 5 nights, 5 consecutive Tuesdays or whatever it was, making 100 of these logic games. And now, in the coming weeks, they're going to be delivering them to agencies that serve these little kids. So they had fun hanging out at the workshop, listening to music, learning how to do a couple things. But then they get the benefit of, like, me with that girl saying, there's a lot of pride when you make something with your hands. It's okay, it's good. And so they get to pass that on. And that's what I actually get the most satisfaction out of, is watching, bringing the youth in, having them do something for others. Others is a big sign on the wall in the workshop. It's all about others,
Yeah, and they're also taking that passion, and you don't know like what you're doing at that particular time. And I think that piece of the puzzle that you're bringing to the table now, how it's going to fit into your life later down the road. I mean, you're setting a course for a lot of these young kids, these youths, to give back because somebody is given to them. That's amazing.
I mean, it's something about experiencing that feeling right? There's like a feeling. It's like my daughter when she came out and she said, she was 5 years old and she's like, Dad, I've got goosebumps. And I'm just like, that's what I want that's what I want everybody that comes to the workshop to experience is, because everything we do, there's a social impact somehow connected to it. We want the goosebumps. That's what we're goosebump hunters.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think I'm trying to get a shirt. Can I get a shirt that says Goosebump Hunters? That's a great line right there. Steph, you had a question before I interrupt you?
Well, I was just it was sort of along the lines of what you're saying, but like down the line. But have you seen any of the kids when you were doing this make the gifts for someone, make them for someone else as a gift and kind of giving from what you're giving to them?
Yeah. I mean, we'll do like Christmas tree decoration builds, and they'll make a bunch of them, and they'll have, they'll put them together and paint them their certain way, and they'll have these ideas of who they're going to give them to. I mean, I think the answer is yes.
No, that's a good answer. And I was just going to say too, you're not only giving, giving resources and you're also giving a lot of your time. It sounds like you've built a community that I think just really trusts you and you're really giving back. So, because it sounds like on a weekly basis, you're putting together things for them to come together and learn. So I think it's just amazing to see the impacts that you're giving to other kids so that one day they can either take these skills and maybe they'll be building houses one day and becoming architects or just that side project at home to keep them, out of trouble,
Right.
Keeping their minds doing good things. Right. So that's really cool.
Yeah, we had the group was over there, and there's a great guy, Casey, and he suffers from depression, and he just wanted to sand. He was so happy to just be on this sanding machine and just sand these pieces that needed to be sanded. And I'm like, are you sure, Casey? He's like, Steve, this is what my mind needs right now. And I'm just like, you're the boss, So it's simple, like you said, Tiffany. It's the little things, right? Like it's all a bunch of little things come together. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things we talk about too, and a lot of our previous guests, is time. The most important thing you can give someone is time.
Yeah.
I mean, you can give them money, you can give them this and give them that, but time is like one of the most important thing. And what you're doing with your time, Steve, and knowing you for as many years as I have, and we've been close because we were locker buddies from 7th grade to 12th grade. And if he forgot his combination, I knew he can get into his locker through mine, vice versa. And you're going back, but honestly, I am just absolutely applauded by your success and how much time you're giving, and to know the fact that we were locker buddies and going all the way back to your mom driving us around in the Eagle, the CYO youth games and all our youth shenanigans and so forth.
Yeah.
What you're doing is absolutely phenomenal.
Well, those are a lot of kind words, Lance. I appreciate that, but I think it's addictive, right? Like it's kingdom work. I always thought I'd be working. I always thought I'd have a full-time job. I always pictured myself as my father, very traditional family. I was scared to death to be a stay-at-home dad. I really was. But it's been the biggest blessing. My wife is phenomenal. I mean, she supports my antics. But she's also part of it, right? Like she gets satisfaction because we're a team. We're a unit on the project here. So it's those are a lot of kind words, but you do what you can, and sometimes it just falls in your lap. What I find is the more you just open your mouth and talk about, what's your story and what gifts you might have to offer to any particular situation. If you listen close, you can hear it. You just got to go towards those opportunities.
Good. And are you only located in Chicago? Like, so if
we've got 1,000 stores across the country.
Yeah, if we direct people to your website,
well,
I mean, can people ship these things and all this other stuff around the United States?
Yeah, so we do. I mean, we're only online, but right now we're low on inventory of dollhouses. Mm-hmm. We do some other toys, some other kits, and it's more like vintage, old school kind of wooden toys. So you can see that stuff online. We're trying to do more. I mean, we're transitioning because the selling the dollhouses is not working so much. It's difficult to maintain all the parts and have the inventory and not sell them, right? So we've been giving, most everything we have away, and we're going to continue doing that. But we're going to fund that giving, doing different things.
Is there a way people can donate to your organization as well?
Well, you can. There's a give only option on there, but it's just really me. And so we started as an S corporation. We're not a nonprofit, so there's no tax deduction. So it is a donation. I mean, we don't make any money. We want to, but we're not yet.
Yeah.
So I would say yes, but not really. It's not the traditional donation that you might think of.
Yeah, but when I say a donation, but those donations can go towards supplies.
Yeah, that's what we use it for. Yeah.
Yeah, and then those go for supplies that will help you continue to make
Absolutely.
an impact on the youth. And I want to drive that home because again, folks are sitting around looking for things to make an impact, and they don't know where to make an impact at. And right here is a great opportunity to make an impact with an organization that's not only bringing kids together, it's bringing adults together. And you were talking about in this crazy world that we're living in right now, with invisible backpacks, people carrying all kinds of mess. And you're talking about having a room full of diversity, and providing people that opportunity to forget about what's going on in the world and just come together as one is phenomenal.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, you gotta follow the whisper, right? You gotta follow the whisper. Yeah, you can learn more about the workshop if you go to hopehousesworkshop.com. That's our website. It's just those 3 words, Hope Houses Workshop, all together. There's some videos and you can learn more kind of about what we're trying to do. We're tiny. They're dollhouses. We're tiny. Apparently we're gonna stay tiny. We'll see.
Yeah, but you're tiny, but you're making an impact.
Yeah, that's what I say. Success, not so much. Significance is great.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. We'll get the link. We'll make sure that the site is going to be on the blurb we put with your video. And I am excited to check out some of your videos too. So I'll make sure if you're cool with that, I'll attach those when we post your video later. So they can check out your houses or your toys, whatever you got going on.
It's Saturday morning, Steve, and you probably got dollhouses to make or something to kind of assemble everything else. But again, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to meet with Tiffany and I this morning and to let the whole world know about, your passion and how it's impacting the Chicago area. And we all see things that Chicago on the news every single day. And some of it's not good, but what you're doing in the Chicago area is absolutely amazing.
Well,
and we hope this brings light in a world of darkness that we're living in right now. And I just want to say thank you for taking your time and keep making a difference in everybody's life every day, and keep doing your thing, brother.
Thanks, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Steve. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for being on, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks. You guys keep up the good work too. This is great.
Thank you.
Thank you.